Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Senator. Senator Snowe.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank all of you for your contributions to our country. I want to follow up on a couple of issues with respect to Iran. And obviously, it's deeply troubling in terms of the direction that they're taking. And we predicate a lot, obviously, on the report that was issued by the IAEA. And I know, Gen.Petraeus, you indicated is an authoritative document. They list, in page 8 of their report, the number of activities that are relevant to the development of a nuclear explosive device, including, procuring nuclear-related and dual-use equipment and materials, developed undeclared pathways, the acquisition of nuclear weapons development information, documentation, work on the development of indigenous design of nuclear weapon, including the testing of components. I gather we agree with the fact that Iran has not made a decision to weaponize at this point. Director Clapper, do you agree on that?
Yes, but they are certainly moving on that path. But we don't believe they've actually made the decision to go ahead with a nuclear weapon.
Well, how will we decide that they have integrated all of these components in a decision to weaponize? At which point?
Well, certainly.
What will be our red line?
Well, certainly a key indicator will be, without going into too sensitive areas here, but a clear indicator would be enrichment of uranium to a 90% level. Would be a pretty good indicator of their seriousness. There are some other things they would need to do, which I'd rather not go into in an open session, that we would also look for apart from whatever we could glean from across the community on an actual decision to go forward.
Gen.Petraeus, do you care to answer as well?
No, I fully subscribe to that. Again, the various components, enrichment, weaponization, delivery, and the we think would be evident if there is a decision to enrich beyond the 20% that they are currently enriching to the weapons grade would be very significant, and I think a telltale indicator. There's no commercial use for that. Arguably, in fact, not arguably, I think factually, the amount of 20% enriched uranium that they have exceeds any requirement, for example, for the Tehran research reactor for the foreseeable future. So there are already concerns just with that.
And the IAEA report said much of their work is dispersed among a number of locations. So with the inspectors being there for however many days, several days, would they be able to discern or detect their ability to weaponize at what state they're in? What do we hope to glean from that process?
As Director Petraeus has alluded, the role of IAEA is extremely important here. And, of course, we do have to bear in mind that Iran is a signatory to the Non-Proliferation Treaty. The facilities that they are now operating are safeguarded, meaning they are required to be inspected by the IAEA. So their presence there and, in fact, their extended stay there, and it's IAEA's intent, as they said before, to hopefully resolve these ambiguities about Iran's program and its intent. So what they have to say is crucial, and of course their continued access is crucial.
Well, and there's continuous monitoring also by other means that the IAEA has as well.
General Burgess, Iran has issued various threats with respect to the Strait of Hormuz. Can you give us some analysis of the activities there and what we are doing, in addition to what capabilities does Iran have or doesn't have with respect to having a potential to close the straits or affect it in any way in terms of international transit?
Well, ma'am, what I have said in open discussions on this, a lot would have to be taken to closed session, but clearly the Iranians have the capability, we assess, to temporarily close the Straits of Hormuz. The concern becomes then define temporarily and how long that would go. But they clearly have that capability. But if we go any further, I'd prefer to go to closed session, ma'am.
Thank you. Do we have a defined time in that respect? On temporary?
Ma'am, I'd prefer to go to closed session.
Okay, thank you. Director Clapper, getting back to the issue of Pakistan, there's a senior administration official that was quoted recently in an article saying that developing a new normal in terms of relationship with Pakistan. So much of what we're doing in Afghanistan is predicated on effectively addressing and rooting out the safe havens, obviously. And that is the predicate and template for the President's policy that he indicated in June. And that obviously we need to have that strong relationship with Pakistan. How does our strategy going forward, how is that affected by what's developing in Pakistan, especially now with, as Gen.Petraeus indicated, there is a review of our relationship that's underway within the Pakistani government, the parliament. And then secondly, they're issuing threats about imposing taxes on the transit of our materials, both ours and NATO's, from their ports and roads to Afghanistan. So this is deeply troubling. And I don't know if this is the new normal, but how does that affect our, our situation in Afghanistan, and how is it that ever changes the dynamic in Afghanistan?
Well, it obviously has a profound impact on Afghanistan and prospects for successful resolution there. That's why, and that is a way of emphasizing the importance of a positive relationship with the Pakistanis, and it's getting into the policy realm now outside of intelligence, but it's crucial that our dialogue proceed and that we find some way of converging on that issue as well, particularly with respect to safe havens. Pakistan Pakistanis are very proud people, and they've felt their sovereignty was assaulted in the Abbottabad raid, and of course the regrettable incident in November with the killing of the Pakistani troops on the border sort of heightens that. That has caused them to collectively reassess the relationship. But in the end, I believe they realize they need a positive partnership with us, and hopefully we'll work through these in such a way that we minimize the impact of these safe havens.
Gen.Petraeus, you're obviously in an interesting position, both as being commander of the forces and being the architect of the counterinsurgency strategy in Afghanistan, and now being director of the Central Intelligence Agency. Since you've assumed this position, do you view things any differently in Afghanistan with respect to our strategy?
No, I can't say that I do.
Mm-hmm. Even with some of the reports that have been issued publicly regarding the assessments of Afghanistan, and that it is very difficult to make the gains that are essential precisely because of what is happening with the safe havens in Pakistan. I mean, these issues are ever thus. I mean, nothing's changed in the dynamic, unfortunately. Between the corruption, the government, and now, of course, the safe havens, these have sort of been, the dynamics that have been there since the beginning.
There is nothing easy about Afghanistan. As we used to say, it's all hard all the time, but it's also all important all the time. There's a reason we went there in the wake of 9/11. We have hugely important national security interests there, and it's very important to that country, to the region, and the world that we do everything possible to try to get that right and to ensure that Afghanistan is never again a launch pad for extremist attacks as it was for the 9/11 attacks. If I could, by the way, you touched a little bit that alluded to the fact that, I had a different viewpoint at various times than that of the intelligence community. And I was pretty clear, I think, in my confirmation hearing that typically resulted from the fact that the intelligence community tends to stop, if you will, the clock, and then for 6 to 8 weeks do the analysis, argue within the community itself on the ultimate position, and then actually provide the NIE or district assessment or whatever document is provided to policymakers. And typically, in the 4 times that I have differed with the intelligence community on Iraq or Afghanistan, the reason for it has been that lag in a dynamic situation, that we continued to make progress, or in a couple of cases didn't, because in those 4 cases, twice I thought the assessment was too negative by the intelligence community, and then once in Iraq, once in Afghanistan, 2 other times I felt that the community was actually too positive and that we should be more guarded in our assessments.
Yeah, I appreciate that. No, I well recall that, and I know there is that sort of, difference, and in terms of the culture even, but also the lag time.
Well, what I should note is that Director Clapper and all of us have discussed this, and what we want to do is dramatically reduce that amount of time from when you stop the clock for the analyst to start the writing, if you will, or to finalize the writing, so that there is not such a large gap between the end of the data and the delivery of the product to the policymakers, to Congress, to the rest of the community.
So that probably didn't happen this last NIE?
Actually, I'm glad you asked that, because I think that's worth clarifying. First of all, the most recent NIE in an open session now addressed the post-2014 period. It was not on the past year or how are things going in general in Afghanistan. It was assessments by the intelligence community analysts about the various scenarios. In other words, if you make a certain set of assumptions about the level of support and a number of other factors in Afghanistan, what will the outcome likely be? And there were a series of assumptions, groups of assumptions about that. There was relatively little on the state of the insurgency. In fact, in open session, it basically said, yes, there has been continued progress, but also that the Taliban does remain resilient. The military's concern in this case was that a view that there perhaps should have been an additional set or perhaps even sets of assumptions that could be analyzed, and in particular some assumptions that may have implied a greater level of assistance than was in those other sets. And that was really the issue. So I think that the accounts of this have not, in all cases, been completely well informed, shall we say.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Maria